All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our regular scheduled village board meeting on December 10th, 2024. Prior to this evening's board meeting, we do need to go through a couple of public hearings. With that, I'm going to open the public hearing regarding the County Line Solar by RPIL Solar 12 LLC annexation agreement. This was a continuation from the November meeting, and this petitioner has requested a continuation to January. Unless anybody has any questions, I'll ask for a motion to continue to January.
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Luciano, second by trustee Selfridge, sorry. Roll call for the continuation, please.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano, and Selfridge.
Yes.
All right, that has been continued to January. Next, I'd like to open a public hearing regarding the proposed levy and collection of taxes for the village of Shorewood, Illinois, Will County, regarding the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2024, ending March 31st, 2025. With said public hearing open, are there anybody from the public that wishes to address the village board regarding this public hearing? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing regarding the proposed levy and collection of taxes for April 1st, 2024 to March 31, 2025.
So moved.
Motion trustee Luciano,
Second.
seconded trustee Chapman. Roll call, please.
Brockman,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
and Amos.
Yes.
Thank you. The levy and collection public hearing has been closed. And third and finally, I do have third public hearing to open. At this point, I'm going to call the public hearing open for the Cal Atlantic Group LLC, also known as the Lennar Annexation Agreement and Amendment and Development Agreement for Town Center 2. This is a project that went through planning and zoning. They have also requested a continuation till January as they work out a couple of other dotting I's and crossing T's. So with that, I do ask for a motion to continue this public hearing till January.
So moved.
Motion trustee Luciano,
Second.
second trustee Selfridge. Roll call to close said public hearing.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
All right, thank you. The public hearing for the annexation agreement has been closed. With that, I do ask everybody to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lana, roll call, please.
Mayor DeVold,
Here.
trustees Amos.
Here.
Brockman,
Here.
Carroll, Chapman,
Here.
Luciano,
Here.
and Selfridge.
Here.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum for this evening's business. Moving on to section B, are there any citizens wishing to address the village board this evening? Seeing none, we will move into this evening's consent agenda. Item 1 will be approval of the regular meeting minutes for November 26, 2024. Item 2 will be approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes for November 26, 2024. Item 3 will be approval of accounts payable in the amount of $1,304,815.30. Item 4 will be approval of a payment in the amount of $68,195.64 to PT Farrell Construction for the 2024 MFT resurfacing project. Item 5 will be approval of a payment in the amount of $550,572.66 to D Construction for the Earl Geneva Road Reconstruction Water Main Replacement Project. And finally, item 6 will be approval of a payment in the amount of $11,700 to Viking Industrial Painting for the ROV inspections. Are there any items a board member needs any further clarification or questions?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just a question on item 3. Does that include the 6-month payment to Joliet for water? Does that include the payment to Joliet for water treatment?
You know what, it does include a bond payment. The bond payment on the public works facility.
but not the treatment payment.
Yeah, also sewer treatment.
Okay, all right. I just missed it, so.
No worries, sir. Any other questions?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion trustee Luciano,
Second.
second trustee Amos. Roll call, please.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
and Chapman.
Yes.
Consent agenda has been approved. We'll move into our reports and communications for this evening. Lana, is there anything that you had received prior to this evening?
No, sir.
Thank you. I have nothing at this time. Move into this evening's order of business. Item number 1 will be consideration for approval of the appointment of Stephanie, I forgot to practice your last name on this, so I apologize. Feldheim, I apologize, as deputy clerk. So as everybody may aware, Tony Donley will be retiring. So as part of our transition to help get everything in line and situate here for a smooth transition, Stephanie started coming over here beginning of the month, trying to start learning those duties and going through the motions so we can have a smooth and effective transition here a little later this summer. So if there's no questions, if I can get a motion to approve the appointment, we will then swear in Stephanie.
So moved.
Motion trustee Chapman,
Second.
seconded trustee Brockman. Roll call for the appointment, please.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
and Luciano.
Yes.
All right. Ms. Stephanie. So you can do some official duties and sign some stuff. Almost stand right in front so everybody can see it. Like the 6 people at home. Right? All right. I state your name.
I, Stephanie Feldheim,
Have been appointed to the position of deputy clerk
have been appointed to the position of deputy clerk
in the village of Shorewood, county of Will,
in the village of Shorewood, county of Will,
state of Illinois,
state of Illinois.
aforesaid,
Aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
to support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the village of Shorewood,
and the ordinances of the village of Shorewood,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. So Stephanie's been here for the last week, 10 days, kind of learning the ropes, kind of was here for the initial first petitions that got turned in. So those of you that were here for that part, you got to see Stephanie also learning a little bit from Tony on that. So jump in with both feet, get ready to learn it, and keep everything going. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And moving forward, business item number 2 will be the consideration, of course, with the deployment we just made with Stephanie and a couple of other changes here. So we do need to move forward with business item number 2, which will be a consideration for approval of the appointment of Stephanie Feldheim and Tricia Hoppenrath as the Freedom of Information Officers.
So we are required to have FOIA officers. We have one for the village hall and general business. We've always kept one at the police department just because of the specificity of those duties. So with the adjustments in personnel, Stephanie's gonna be the FOIA officer for the village hall and general village business. And then Tricia Hoppenrath, who's the record supervisor, will be the FOIA officer at the PD.
Kind of straightforward, just kind of following some procedural aspects to keep everything in check. So unless anybody has any questions, take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion trustee Luciano,
Second.
seconded trustee Chapman. Roll call, please, for the appointments.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
And Selfridge.
Yes.
All right, business item 2 has been approved, and congratulations, you're the official FOIA officers for each respective department. All right, moving forward, business item number 3 will be consideration for approval of an ordinance for the levy and collection of taxes for the village of Shorewood, Will County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2024, and ending March 31st, 2025. This item is up for a second read. Over to Ms. Burkholder.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second read of our 2024 proposed tax levy. It does follow the guidance that we discussed at our committee of the whole back in October, I believe. The design of this levy is to capture some of our EAV growth without adjusting that final tax rate. However, these two things move at the same time, so we won't know that final EAV until after we have to turn this rate in. So when the county gives us back our rate in March, we'll have the opportunity to reduce it if we've estimated too high. So with that, we've adjusted up that corporate amount. The police pension amount is in line with what the actuary recommended back when they gave us their report in the summertime. The total proposed levy is $2,190,188.75. Are there any questions?
Any questions on that? We've kind of been over this 2-3 different times, just following our procedural aspect, and here for a second read at this point.
I'll make a motion for the approval of an ordinance for the levy and collection of taxes for the village of Shorewood, Will County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2024 and ending March 31st, 2025.
Second.
Motion Selfridge, second Chapman. Roll call, please.
Brockman.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
And Amos.
Yes.
All right, item 3 has been approved. Moving on to business item number 4 will be a consideration for approval of an ordinance amending Title 10 of the Shorewood Village Code regarding our public hearing notices. Trustee Brockman and Ms. Engel.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last meeting here at the village, we went over this amendment quite a bit. Does anybody have any further questions or concerns they need to bring up now? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title 10 of Shorewood Village Code regarding public hearing notices.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Brockman, seconded by Trustee Chapman. Roll call, please.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
And Brockman.
Yes.
Item 4 has been approved. Moving on to item 5, which will be a consideration for approval of an ordinance granting a conditional use permit for a planned unit development for the final PUD plat for the Shorewood Veterinary Clinic at Shorewood Town Center. Trustee Brockman and Ms. Engel again.
Thank you again, Mayor. We had a very lengthy discussion on this agenda item last night at a special planning and zoning meeting. After all was said and done, it comes here with a 6-0 vote from the commissioners. We did have 2 people speak, just asking questions at the public hearing, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Trustee Selfridge?
Yeah, it seemed like their concerns were focused on 2 aspects. One was really the road, right, and the interchange and the traffic, which I think that's really IDOT's responsibility than ours. But I think their concerns are the village's concerns too, right, where we just want to make sure everyone can transmit safely. And I think one was questioning the look of the aesthetics versus town center and all that. But those were the only concerns.
Okay. Natalie, you want to go through some of the particulars, please?
Sure. So this evening, we're going to talk about really 2 things related to this case. One is the fact that we'd be approving a final PUD plat for something that is subject to the original PUD for the town center, and the other one is the site plan for this specific lot. So if you look on the screen, on the top right-hand corner, you'll see the original PUD plat for the town center. This is about half of the commercial that was going to be on the west side of the street. The north half was sold to the library a number of years ago. This was before you a couple of weeks ago for a concept plan, and since that time, we've worked with the applicant to make some improvements to the circulation. So this is shown up on the screen right now. What they did was they shifted the access point a little bit further north on Windstone, and we're hoping that they'll be able to meet with the library and maybe find a way to coordinate that access so that they can both share that. And they've also shifted the access road for that area to the north side of the property. We thought that was a good idea because it would give them a little bit more room on the lots for the commercial development, and also would maybe open up some opportunities where they could collaborate with the library. They've also shifted the lot lines a little bit, and the property is shown in blue. On the south side of the development, we spoke to them about some of the concerns that came up in the meeting and some of the concerns that staff had with the access point shown going straight into the veterinary clinic's parking lot. And we all decided it would be better if it was shifted, the access was shifted a little bit further east, so that way it could be shared among the future users, because we believe that IDOT is likely to only give them one access point, so it makes it better to share with the existing users and takes all that through traffic from their parking lot. Right now, they have a full access drawn onto the site plans. Shorewood does not have authority over that access, that's IDOT authority. We believe that it's likely that IDOT will try to restrict it to a right-in, right-out. If they do consider a full access, then we would, suggest and recommend that they require channelization, like left turn lane and things like that, to help that access point. We will give you an update as soon as we know more about that, but right now, what we know is they're preparing their documents to submit to IDOT, and then we'll have to wait for them to respond on that. The green circles show the 2 access points. The site plan is approximately a 2-acre site. At the far western side, that leaves about a little over 7 acres remaining. They have a 12,712 square foot building, about 10,600 square feet on the ground floor, and just over 2,000 square feet on the upper floor. There's a 3,000 square foot fenced in play yard that is used by their doggy daycare as well as by their boarding services. They have 61 parking spaces, including 3 ADA spaces, which is above and beyond what they're required for this use. Behind the building, they have a loading area that could be used if they're bringing in larger animals, for example, an occasional horse or something like that. And there is also a dumpster enclosure that's in a stone type enclosure. And we'll talk a little bit later about the actual original PUD, but essentially what they're doing is they're establishing the line where all the buildings are going to be built to. So if they follow the PUD plans, we're likely to see a double row of parking in front of the building, and then the sidewalk and the foundation landscaping. This is their landscape plan. It's been filled out since you last saw it. They've basically got deciduous shrubs along the parking spaces in front along Jefferson Street. They've got some overstory trees, things like maples, in the parking lot and in the side yards. They have a combination of different types of shrubs along the foundation. They've added a 5-foot berm near the play yard, and then screened all the utility equipment. And then in the rear yard and around the play yard, they have a combination of evergreen and deciduous trees, such as oaks, cedars, and spruces. The area that's shown highlighted darker will be sod, and then the area that's shown highlighted lighter, the turf area, will be hydro-seeded and seed blanketed. They've looked at the access points. They've run the auto turns to make sure that it works for the fire truck in both directions, which it does. This is the same image you saw last time. This is their building. It's all a hardy plank building, sort of with a modern farmhouse type of look. You can see on the top picture on the right-hand side, there's the fence that's demonstrated. They'll use that fencing along the play yard as well, and that is a board-on-board or shadow box fence, a composite material in that dark gray, 6 feet tall. This is the building. They've put some architectural elements on all the sides. The rear is a little bit less dressed up because they'll have so much landscaping, but there are some nice architectural features and nice pitched roofs on all the sides. This is the floor plan of the main floor. As you can see, the main focus is on the veterinary practice, which is shown in yellow. The grooming is off to the side in orange. The reception area, sorry, I should have mentioned that first, is in green. In the red, there's the pet daycare, and then the boarding is in blue for the dogs and in purple for the cats. The gray areas are like the laundry room and staff room and stairs and utility rooms. And then on the second story, it's basically all storage and utility equipment and things like that. But it does give them some room for that and also a nice look to the building. As we mentioned last meeting when we talked about the concept plan, their primary use is really a veterinary, medical, and surgery center. They do regular checkups on your pets. They do surgery, CT scans, vaccinations, all of that stuff. The great majority of their business is dogs and cats, but they will see your hamster or your horse as well. They're typically open 7:30 till 6 PM on weekdays, 7:30 till noon on Saturdays, and closed Sundays. That's the hours of the medical and surgery center, as well as the grooming and the doggy daycare. The doggy daycare is one of the topics we talked about most at the last meeting. Doggy daycare is really an accessory use to the veterinary clinic. As I mentioned, they're open the same hours as the clinics. They will have between 5 and 8 dogs in a daycare group, maybe 2 or 3 daycare groups at the same time, and they have a ratio of about 2 or 3 dogs per attendant, so quite a high ratio of humans to dogs. The dogs play inside. They're also brought out into the play yards, and when they do bring them outside, there are a maximum of 3 dogs per attendant. Although they're open 7:30 to 6 and 7:30 to noon, they don't go outside before 8 AM with the daycare dogs, and they take their last visit outside a half an hour before they close. So they're really in by 5:30 or 11:30 on those days. We did discuss at the last meeting with them, and after that, if dogs are causing problems, if they're noisy or rambunctious and need attention, then they're brought inside for that, so they don't disturb the neighbors. They do offer dog boarding as an accessory use. Sometimes dog boarding places have indoor-outdoor runs. That is not the case here. In this case, they have dry-walled, what they're called suites. Some of them are smaller, some of them are large with dog couches and TVs and everything like that. But they are dry-walled, and they do not have direct access to outdoors. When the dogs aren't in doggy daycare and they're just in the boarding area, they're brought out individually on a leash by an attendant. So it's one-on-one, really somebody walking a dog in the back area. They're typically brought out for the last time at 8 PM, and then they have wind down time before bed when the attendants leave at 10. This shows the roadways. The orange roadways are on the site. Those are fully improved roads with curbs and gutter and storm sewers and all of that. On the south side, leading to the access off of Jefferson, they're planning to put the curbs and gutters on the south side, leave the north side just as the edge of asphalt because they'll need access to those other lots, and they're not sure where those accesses are going to be. And then what we're showing in green is something they've proposed, and that's to put in a temporary roadway. It would be a 24-foot asphalt roadway. And then the intention is when the second business develops, then they'll fully improve that road with curbs and gutters and storm sewers and village standard street lights. Right now, they're proposing to use the village standard street lights in the parking lot and along the south side. But because they won't be doing all the full improvements and bringing all the utilities along the north side, they've proposed to use some solar lights on a temporary basis. And they're not our village standard lights, but they're also not really temporary. They're 18-foot aluminum poles with an aluminum head with some lights that they'll have temporarily, and then when they rebuild the road, then they'll put in the village standard light. And we have a trigger written in there, so that has to be done before the second business opens up. As I mentioned, this is part of the original town center PUD. So there's the whole big plan in the upper right-hand corner, and then this is the commercial area plan that was approved. This was approved back in 2003, but it is the preliminary plan, and we're approving the final. So we do need to make sure that it complies. At that point, they weren't anticipating that the library would buy the north part, but so they laid out the site plan. They talked about things like a build-to line, and that basically means line up all the buildings along 52. They talked about having design on all elevations, so not a blank back of the building. Consistent design between all of them. They talked about parking standards, and they kind of labeled the buildings based on where they were. So the most dressed up buildings were along Windstone, and then as you got further out, the buildings that they labeled D, one of which was going to be Kohl's, and the other one in this case will be classified as this, were more sort of suburban in nature. There was also a town center update done that came up yesterday at the Plan Commission meeting, so I added it in. This was a plan done by a consultant for how it could develop. It wasn't officially approved as part of this PUD, so we don't need to find compliance with it, but just to show you, there was an example drawn of how this could be changed up if they couldn't get a big box users, for example, the Kohl's, and they showed a combination of retail and multifamily residential. In this case, we're really not talking about residential on this property. We're talking about the retail and then potentially the library on the future lot, or however that develops. So this is another plan you may have seen, but it's really this one that we need to make sure we comply with. So how are they complying? they've established this build-to line. They meet the parking ratio. They've got a 4.8 parking space per 1,000 square foot requirement, which is more than enough for a retail business or for a veterinary clinic. They do have that four-sided architecture. They're using hardy board. They've got different textures. They've got sloped roofs on all sides. We have to look for consistency in design. In this case, we think that, this is kind of a modern farmhouse style architecture. It doesn't exactly match what's already been approved over at the Hamptons, but it does share some similarities. The Hamptons has got that sort of Main Street look along the front. They have some elements that are similar, like the roof lines, the gables, the dormers, the hardy plank, and the board and batten. But they are a little bit different. This one is on the edge. So we feel that from that perspective it complies. We have talked about future development and how those other lots in this strip are going to develop, and they sort of agreed that it'll have to be a little bit more like the Hamptons, in which case it has some of those Main Street elements as well as some of those farmhouse type elements that are so in style right now. The applicant is here. Jeff Kilberg from Apex is representing the veterinary clinic and happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'm glad to see that we've got somebody local trying to buy the 9 acres out here and trying to make a transformation out here. So the temporary road, real quick. We're looking to do like that 24-foot temporary road. I mean, I like the idea of doing the solar lights as a temporary lighting. It'll look cleaner, but can the amount of them be reduced?
So, from a photometrics perspective, that's what's required to meet our photometric standard. If we want to look at maybe as part of this PUD giving them an exception so that they can have a slightly lower photometric standard and they work at it with the engineer, we can certainly look at that.
Yeah, I like the idea of having some light on that road so it's not black when they come in and then it's lit. But I'd hate to see it lit up with, and that design showing, I don't remember, what was it, 10, 12, 15 light pole? I mean, there's a lot of light poles up there for that.
There is. So
I just don't know if there was a way of, I don't know, is there a way of losing 3 or 4 of them and still be able to see the roadway?
Sure. I mean, certainly we could, they've designed this to meet our photometric standard.
Okay.
We can look at the idea of having their lighting engineer work with our lighting engineer to come up with a standard that's reasonable and provides enough light for safety, but not excessively, and we can work that out as
I mean, I don't want to hold them up. I understand that but I just don't want to see an overzealous requirement to try to find a balance. Again, I want to make sure we find balance with the developer coming in, by all means.
Between now and when they need to go up, let's hope they can
Yeah,
reduce a few of those.
Sure. The other thing, I'm going to be honest, when we saw the original concept plan, I do like the fact that they moved that main entrance to the east. I think that's going to help make the rest of that land a little more marketable, depending what IDOT ultimately dictates, whether it becomes a full access or right in, right out. However that comes, obviously they're going to have to wait until IDOT makes that determination. But I think that makes, honestly, the rest of that land very, very attractable, having an entrance ready to go there. The other one, of course, I know the petitioners, they've been in contact with the library, so I think that's a big plus to have there, so they can try to coordinate one common entry point there. So Natalie, did you say the libraries at least already made initial contact and have been receptive to
Sure.
sharing that entrance?
So I spoke with the library district really twice about this. In reality, they're very open to having those conversations. We would typically, in a case like this, wait and let them have those conversations, but we're lucky right now we have somebody who's ready to close on the property and get started.
Sure.
And they'd like to get a foundation in this year. So what we said is, let's have them work on that, and if they can come up with something that they can coordinate on and we need to come back to you, we'll come back with an amendment and figure that out at that point. We think this works, but it's even better if they can collaborate with the library.
Yeah, I think with the traffic light going in next year, with the YMCA across the street, somebody local sitting on the ground, I think we're going to see a few more people out here sooner than later. So seeing the rest of the full improvements, I think you're going to see some more development on these other outlots sooner than later. So I'm glad to see it. Any other, by all means, any other comments or from board members?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Fences, they're gonna be all composite, not wood?
Correct.
Okay, and then just a couple things to confirm. The lighting, I think you guys talked about last night, it's gonna be similar to Salon Suite, so it's like a business district? down lighting?
It is. We actually use the office standard in
Office
reviewing it, so it's not as bright as like a Target shopping center or anything like that. It's a lower level of lighting. And they are, they're using some building lighting, and then they're using some of the village standards, not the super tall poles, but the 18-foot poles, and it's all down lighting.
Oh, even the building lighting?
Correct, yeah. Down lighting is really the trend right now because we're concerned about bright skies and things
Yeah.
like that.
And then, and I think you sort of touched on it, so future buildings, because that's where, like, it's a farmhouse. I mean, it's a red farmhouse.
It is
It's
definitely
very
a
much
farmhouse look.
And that was some of the concern from the residents that talked yesterday, is it doesn't even fit the Hamptons. So the rest of that development is gonna be more Hamptons than farm?
That's what we suggested, and they agreed that they thought that was a good idea, yes. So we've got that written into the PUD.
Okay, so like if they did a strip mall or something like that there, it's gonna look kind of like the mixed-use buildings design scheme
Yes.
that was there.
Yeah, and the Hamptons does have, some of those elements with their board and batten siding and the peaks and things like that. Especially the multifamily building does have a lot of farmhouse elements. So from that perspective, we can see that working. And that's very 2024, right?
Yeah. Okay. I think my only other question, so then if there is dog barking and noising, they're just subject to normal village ordinances as far as, even though they're a business, but if there's dog nuisances and it's loud, residents could call whoever.
Yes, they can call, they can certainly call us and we'll talk to them. And they have agreed to us that, if they have a noisy dog problem, they'll bring the dog in. And certainly, if it's after hours and there's a dog out and it's 11 o'clock, certainly the police department, but also I'm sure they'll bring it to our attention and we'll talk to the applicant, because they are subject to a PUD, and keeping that dog noise under control is part of that.
Okay. Those are all my questions.
Anybody else have any questions, thoughts, concerns? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had a question on, you're gonna be having horses possibly that they can work on over there, that they're gonna have that?
Not
Is
as,
horses the only one, or are you gonna have cattle?
I don't know that they have cattle as part of their business plan, and Mr. Kilberg, maybe you can answer that. They said it is very
Exactly
rare,
what-
but they
what
do have.
large animals are gonna be
Rarely, but it would be a quant. So horses.
horses?
Yeah.
The question I had on that part is, where you unload the horses, is that a secure area where if they were to get loose, they're fenced in and they can't get out of the property?
So the loading area is directly at the back side of the building. That area is a close proximity to the rear of the building for direct access into the practice. There's no fences or gates back there from just standard egress process on the rear of the building. It would really inhibit staff in an emergency to leave that, exit out the rear of the building, and there'd be another gate for staff to go through. So I think from a standpoint, if there's unloading and loading of large animal like a horse, obviously it's going to be on lead the entire time. It's not, going to be something that's going to be unloaded and just freely walked over to the building without a lead.
So, my question is this, is it possible that a horse could get loose and get off of the property? It's not fenced in the area where you're unloading?
No, from just a sample egress standpoint, it does not make sense from life safety perspective.
So it's fenced in?
No, it's not fenced in.
So it's, well.
So the dog run area is fenced in, but there's no fence encompassing the back of the building.
So a horse could get loose and get off of the property?
Theoretically, yeah, potentially. I think anytime you set up a situation where you have a large animal coming in, you have multiple hands on deck. And that's a process which is managed on the inside of the veterinary practice, really to manage the potential for an animal to escape. You could have a dog that theoretically escapes too. I mean, those are all situations that you could run into in that perspective situation. Like somebody could come in, a patient could be dropping a dog to the front of the practice and it could get away from the patient and unfortunately run off. I mean,
Well, I wouldn't be concerned about a dog as much as I would be a horse.
So one thing I think we should probably note is that the horse, if there was a horse, it would strictly be for the veterinary and surgical perspective. It wouldn't be boarded there.
Yes.
It wouldn't be in the play yard. So it would be, I would imagine it would be tied in the trailer. Somebody would embark on the trailer, take the horse by lead
Yes.
directly into the building.
most of the time, large animal is done either in the trailer, or a lot of times they actually travel out to the respective farmer or handler in that situation. And that's from a comfort perspective when handling veterinary. So they do have a full-size CT imagery equipment on the inside that does offer the ability to accommodate large animal. That would be the only reason to bring it into the practice from that perspective, or surgery, as Natalie's talking about.
It's not a concern that no one's concerned about that? The reason I bring it up.
Sounds like it, even when they talked about it, the concept, it seems to be very rare for you guys talked
Yes.
about it.
99.9% of the animals that come in there are cats and dogs.
The other question I had is about the IDOT. IDOT has not approved.
Correct.
Exit or entrance into that
Mhm.
property. From what I read and from what you mentioned, it's possible that they might approve a right-in and a right-out. My concern is, and we have it in several other places in town, where people, even though we have a right-in and a right-out, that traffic from the opposite side tries to make a left-hand turn, goes in. And it's very common because I've seen it happen dozens of times on my way home. This part here, is there some way we can have something up there where people will not try to make a left-hand turn out of there to go?
We would be governed and they would be governed by IDOT's standard of what the requirement is.
No, I'm concerned about a traffic accident.
Again, I understand what you're saying,
You
but
know what I'm talking about?
right. It's no different than the gas and washer. You see people make a left out of the right in, right out.
Well, they're going 50 miles an hour.
I understand. I mean, but they would be governed by what
No, I just
IDOT
want-
dictates.
It's a concern I had. There's no other concern about it.
I had that same concern. I think you could maybe ask IDOT to put those yellow sticks I've seen at some roads where it's in the middle, right?
But they would have to, again,
That's an
as
IDOT thing.
100%, and as noted, if IDOT gave them a full interchange, or if there was other concerns and that was happening, we might be able to try to convince IDOT to put a different traffic mitigation aspect if that was the case out there. But we're kind of stuck waiting to see what they
If IDOT does not approve the 52 entrance and exit, is that road behind capable of handling the traffic that we're gonna have? That's my question.
It does, and we don't have wonderful records from 2004, but it does seem like in 2004, there were some conversations with IDOT, and IDOT did intend to allow some type of access along this property.
All right, thank you.
One more question, because I was looking back at this and we talked about it last night, the mobile vet service.
So, yeah, right, the mobile vet service, so I think with the rare occasion of going out to see a horse or stuff like that, there's not a lot of mobile vet service that's occurring anymore, right?
Correct. So mobile vet was created back before they had a freestanding location. So from that standpoint, by and large, their majority of clients are still in the freestanding location.
And I'm not worried about the service, it's more like the commercial vehicles, right? Because we can't have, Village Code doesn't allow commercial vehicles, so if you're working on equine, I assume you're driving a bigger truck and those wouldn't be allowed to be parked outside.
Yeah, so I think Village needs to be understanding that there's commercial vehicles that will be accessing the rear of that building from that standpoint. They'll be dropping off, supplies, they'll be dropping off equipment.
Sure, yeah.
Stuff like that. And it needs to be understanding that they could be parked back there on basically a temporary basis.
No, that works. It's more like businesses, if you've got a fleet of mobile vet trucks with your logos and stuff on it.
Yes.
I don't believe that's allowed by code, correct? And that's what I'm trying to ask for this.
And that's a good point, so we should maybe make clarification there. It would be allowed in the rear yard, but are there any planned business vehicles with regard to this?
No.
So maybe we make that clear in the PUD to say that, I'm sure that could be just addressed with the attorneys, that we're not, that there are 61 parking spaces for, customer and staff vehicles and no business vehicles.
Yeah, I was, for the concept, there was another gentleman here that was talking about having a vehicle parked out. And I remember those conversations. It's not a scenario where it's going to have a vehicle that's going to be parked out with a logo on the side and it's going to be parked out there all night, all day type scenario.
Okay.
Any other questions, thoughts?
Anything else or concerns? And
No, sir.
And before we vote on this, I want to thank the commissioners who had two P and Z meetings within 5 days. So appreciate them coming in and going through this on a special night. With that, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance granting a conditional use permit for a planned unit development for a final PUD plat for the Shorewood Veterinary Clinic at Shorewood Town Center.
Second.
Motion trustee Brockman, second trustee Amos. Roll call, please.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
and Chapman.
Yes.
All right, item 5's been approved. Item number 6 will be consideration for approval of a resolution repealing Resolution 20R-993 entitled "A Resolution Accepting a Plat of Vacation for the Village of Shorewood, Will County, Illinois," in reference to 25511 Regent Boulevard. Ms. Engel.
So, 4 years ago, we came forward to you with a proposal to vacate a property line and an easement because a resident had bought two properties. Something we see very commonly. In this case, he didn't follow through and sign it and get the signatures of the utility companies and bring it back to us. The signatures are stale dated. We've reached out numerous times. He doesn't appear to have any interest to complete it, so we'd like to repeal it so it's no longer something we have to track from record-keeping perspective.
Is this Winchester Gardens
Westminster Gardens, yes.
or Westminster?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody have any questions on that?
I'll make a motion for the approval of resolution repealing Resolution 20R-993 entitled "A Resolution Accepting a Plat of Vacation for the Village of Shorewood, Will County, Illinois for 25511 Regent Boulevard."
Motion Selfridge,
Second.
second trustee Amos. Roll call, please.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
And Luciano.
Yes.
All right, item 6 been approved. Business item number 7 will be consideration for approval of a contract with K&D Landscaping, the amount not to exceed $140,000 for the village's landscape maintenance and waive the formal bid process. Public Works Director Noriega.
Thank you, Mayor. So K&D has been our landscape service provider for our Village Hall, Police Department, Public Works, and a number of our miscellaneous right-of-ways throughout the entire village since 2021. Having this type of longer relationship does definitely help staff, especially when you don't have to retrain new landscapers of the limits of where everything has to be maintained. The only thing that we're asking for that's being changed in this contract, there was a request made last year for a weekly mowing of the north side of the ponds here in Town Center. So this contract has added that change. If you also note, in 2023 and 2024, K&D has held their price since then. This contract, they're asking for a nominal increase of approximately 2% on their contract price. Also, the contract does add a couple extra mows, especially when we do have our events here in Town Center. So when we ask the contractor to mow it again, it is also included in this contract. Staff is recommending the village board waive the formal bid process and award the contract to K&D Landscaping in the amount not to exceed $140,000 for our landscaping maintenance needs here at the village. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Noriel on this?
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve as read.
Motion by trustee Amos,
Second.
second trustee Selfridge. Roll call, please.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
And Selfridge.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item 7's been approved. Business item number 8 will be a consideration for approval of change order number 1 for the 2024 pavement marking program, increasing our contract by $14,780.40. Noriel will explain.
Thank you again, Mayor. So you saw them in town. They were doing the pavement marking along River Road, South Raven Road, also along North Brook Shore Drive. SRS has been our contractor that has been giving us the low proposal for the last number of years, doing our additional pavement markings. This year, unfortunately, I apologize, but we did underestimate the quantities needed for River Road. Much of the quantities that we did measure, that from staff measuring all of what we needed, was from aerial imagery. I know that the village board had already approved not to exceed $90,000. The as measured quantities reflected a total of $98,320.40. Our fiscal year 25 budget does allocate $100,000 for this project, so it's still within budget. Staff is recommending the village board approve a change order, number 1, for the amount, for our 2024 pavement marking program in the amount of $14,780.40, increasing SRS's contract to $98,320.40. Any questions?
I'll tell you what they did was, it was sure needed, I can tell you that, so
Thank you.
it was, it really looks good now.
If there's no questions, take a motion to approve that. Fortunately, we don't hear a lot of change orders.
Don't have a lot of what?
Change orders.
Oh, yeah. Make a motion to approve change order number 1 for 2024 pavement marking program, increasing our contract by $14,780.40.
Second.
Motion by trustee Brockman, second by trustee Chapman. Roll call, please.
Brockman.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
And Amos.
Yes.
All right, moving on to business item number 9 will be a consideration for approval of a payment in the amount of $78,016.20 to Superior Road Striping High Star Traffic for the village's 2024 pavement marking program. Obviously, we just discussed that. It will be making the payment in regards to a lot of those improvements you've already seen. Nori, anything you want to add to that?
No, this is just usually added to our consent agenda, but rather than having them wait until January for payment, we're just asking to be added to the agenda.
Anybody have any questions on paying the bill?
I'll make a motion for the approval of payment in the amount of $78,016.20 to Superior Road Striping High Star Traffic for the village's 2024 pavement marking program.
Second.
Motion Selfridge, second trustee Amos. Roll call, please.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
And Brockman.
Yes.
All right, moving on to business item number 10 will be consideration for approval of a resolution authorizing an alternative voting member to the Southwest Agency for Risk Management. This is going to be regarding our insurance. Over to Aaron.
So Schwarm is our liability insurance carrier for, workman's comp and liability and all those other sorts of things. The village administrators, by the tenets of that agreement and that cooperative, or the village administrator is the voting member. However, most of the villages have their HR person go. I go to most of the meetings now. I've been going along with Shadia, but Tony's been going for us for well over a decade. And with the transition of responsibilities, we're gonna nominate Shadia to be my alternate.
Anybody have any questions letting Shadia go to insurance meetings?
Sounds like fun.
Motion to approve the resolution then.
Motion to approve as read.
Thank you, trustee Amos made the motion.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Brockman. Roll call, please.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
And Chapman.
Yes.
Thank you. Business item number 11. Consideration for approval of a resolution setting forth the meeting dates of the Shorewood Village Board and its administrative subunits for the year 2025. As attached in everybody's packets, it does break out meeting dates for 2025, identifies committee of the whole and planning and zoning dates as scheduled right now. Of course, anything that comes up as needed, of course, we'll put out special notices. Anything that comes up or should arise during the course of the year. If anybody has any questions, if not, take a motion to approve.
Mayor, we did have one problem with planning and zoning, because it occurs on New Year's Day. So we moved
Didn't that
it.
get noted in the, I thought that got updated in the packet.
Oh, it did? Okay.
I believe it did.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Did it or not, before it came out?
There was a date change, I think, in April. We just put the wrong date. Tony changed it in the appropriate, so it's the 22nd.
Should be April 22nd.
Yeah, and of course, the website will rectify all that as well, so. If that's the case, we'll take a motion as amended as noted.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the resolution setting forth meeting dates of the Shorewood Village Board and its administrative subunits for the year 2025 as amended.
Motion trustee Selfridge,
Second.
second trustee Chapman. Roll call, please.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
and Luciano.
All right.
Taking a drink of water.
Moving into our department reports, building, Mr. Steriati, anything? Nothing tonight, you just wanna close out the year, huh? No worries. Natalie?
No report, thank you.
Nothing from economic. Finance?
No report.
Thank you. I don't know if Katie's here for parks
I
or,
don't know, I think she's here tonight.
Yeah.
Get ready to travel. Holiday market was this weekend, it was a big success, we had a wrap-up meeting today, so we'll be doing some things with that next year. You know, things are quiet right now, there's some programming over the next 4 or 5 weeks, but, we'll get started more in earnest in the spring.
all right, over to Chief, anything?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, just a reminder, this Sunday, we will doing our annual Shop with a Cop event, Sunday morning with the kids. Normally, we limit this to 20. This year, we had a last-minute addition of 5 extra kids from a family that was in town determined to have some needs, so we'll be shopping with 25 kids this Sunday, so it'll be interesting. We're going to be doubling some kids up, and I don't know how many Tricia has assigned to me, but it's always interesting. I get the wild ones that want to crawl in and out of the carts all the time, so I'll be on my toes. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. So our leaf pickup program is completed. We did do 1 extra week for a total of 11 weeks this year. Public Works is setting up the ice rink over at Four Seasons, so get ready for that, for the ice rink. And then now we'll be starting to shift into our tree trimming operations over this winter in between the snow events. Any questions?
Nothing, I know, a lot of road work still going on in the area, and I think some of our stuff's kind of buttoned up around Earl and Geneva. Kind of looks like they're just trying to do some finishing touches for what they can before winter.
Yeah, so the Earl and Geneva, we are finishing up many of those driveways that we can. The connections and services for each of the water main services for each of the businesses is ongoing. They are doing the electrical for the street lighting along that as well. We are also doing the River Road street lighting, decorative street lighting from Ranchwood down to Sile and along Sile itself, so that's ongoing as well. I did go through Route 59 Sile Road. That is final surface paved with IDOT with this good weather. So I'm hoping to see the striping be completed maybe next week with the temperatures are also gonna be in our favor. So a lot of that was done as well.
Yeah, it looked like even down there by 59 and South, they were getting the bike path, the multi-use path back in place down there behind River Bluff. So that's good to see that get put back in place too. So.
I had a question about Earl Road.
Yes, sir?
They're been doing the asphalt there?
Yes?
They were doing it today?
Not on Earl Road.
No, I don't think on Earl.
Geneva.
Not today.
They could have been doing a little bit with the manholes and the valves that they had to expose.
I was just curious because I thought they couldn't lay asphalt when the temperature was below 50 degrees.
Well, we've been allowing it in order to complete the work. Now, what you see out there is temporary asphalt, okay? So we did bring up the level of the roadway all the way up to, call it flat. Come in the spring, we're gonna now still put the surface of the actual surface for the roadway.
So it's not finished?
Correct.
Okay. That's
Because of the
because I
temperature.
happened to drive down there.
Yeah.
And I saw it was like, in the middle there was like indentation.
Yes. So in the spring, you will see them edge grind the roadway, gonna remove some of it, and then we're gonna build up the crown with the final surface of Earl and Geneva.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And thanks, Noriel. And with that, Administrator. Thank you. With that, we'll move into trustee comments. Trustee Amos.
Thank you, Mayor. Another very nice holiday market. Well done to everybody involved. Good job. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Brockman.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess everybody knows by now, January 8th is our next planning zoning. Too early for an agenda. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Carroll is not here. Trustee Chapman.
No report, but apparently we've got to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, okay? The board members, the staff. Great job around the village hall too. Because coming back and seeing that looks great. Everybody did such a wonderful job. And if we get a horse loose, 55 years ago, one of our farmers rode his horse into Alan Bob's Tavern. Ron Richards.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah. Old Dusty, and Ron came in dressed like Santa Claus.
Oh,
It was a good Christmas.
The timing's appropriate right there.
Huh?
The timing was appropriate.
It was definitely appropriate.
All right, thank you. Trustee Luciano.
Citizens Advisory Committee will meet January 23rd for our next meeting. As always, if anyone's interested in getting involved, they can contact myself or any other members. Information is on the village website. And I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hope everything goes well for you in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Selfridge.
Just want to wish everyone happy holidays and thank all the village staff and village employees for everything that they've done this year. It feels like it's been a busy year in the village. I'm sure everyone feels the same. I know Aaron's shaking his head over there. So thank you, everyone's work. It doesn't go unnoticed and it's definitely appreciated. So thank you guys.
Thank you. And same thing in closing, again, thank you to all the board members, all of our staff, all of our residents. We just had another great holiday market. Very appreciative of all the residents coming out from party in the parks to holiday markets and all the events in between. Again, thank you to the board for continuing supporting that for different activities for our residents through the community. And with that, I do wish everybody have a good Christmas, happy holidays, safe and enjoyable New Year as we move into 2025. With that, I do ask for a motion to go into executive session regarding personnel to consider the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees and pending litigation. There will be no action taken after. We will adjourn from executive, but I do need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved. Second.
Motion trustee Amos, seconded by trustee Luciano. Roll call, please.
Amos.
Yes.
Brockman.
Yep.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
And Selfridge.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the back room.